Welcome to the Mystical Mermaid Lounge podcast, a space where all spiritual seekers are honored and celebrated. This podcast was born from the journeys of your hosts, who have each faced her own dark night of the soul, but they've emerged with an unshakable belief in divine connection, cosmic inspiration, and her true life's calling. Join us on a journey of personal growth, transformation, and magical self-discovery. Your first co-host is Chloe Brown, a gifted intuitive empath and shadow work life coach. Your second co-host is Keone Starr, an intuitive energy worker and acclaimed past life regressionist. The Mystical Mermaid Lounge podcast starts now.
Today, we are welcoming Melissa Gentile Bishop. Live Raw with Melissa is a trauma-informed coaching space built on her raw, RAW methodology, inspired by her own trauma journey and the wisdom she earned through lived experience, focused on real talk, authentic growth, and lasting wellness. She will cut through the fluff. She gets honest about what's really going on and helps you release what's been keeping you stuck, mind, body, and spirit. You'll get practical tools you can use in real life, plus tailored support from Melissa so your growth is sustainable and actually sticks. And the last time that Melissa was on our podcast, she had talked quite a bit about her RLP program. And so we're super excited to hear about the evolution of the RLP program, which is still very much into play, and what that now means for the RAW program as, I think, 2.0, if I'm understanding. So we have Chloe here with us as well.
Hello, everybody.
And we hand it to you, Melissa, to tell us about RAW 2.0.
As I was writing my book, Raw, The Real Talk for Self-Discovery, I wanted to embody what I wrote, right? So this is about being unapologetic about who you are and talking in that language that you want to speak, like I want to speak. So I didn't really change the program as much as I just decided I'm owning it as me, raw. My delivery of the program is different. And I'm very direct and no bullshit kind of gal. And I want all of my audience to know that that's me, because I can't be anything else, right? We're not honoring ourselves or anyone else in our lives by trying to be something that we're not. I am very comfortable in a gritty space, being messy and, imperfect. I think there is so much beauty in just accepting that perfection is never going to be a thing. And that's okay. Taking off the masks of being perfect or being strong all the time, or all of these things that I walk through in my life, has been so liberating to be able to say, no, not a girly girl, or I'm want to cuss a lot, and that's just me. And I want to be able to help people not worry about what someone else is thinking. There's no value in judgment. There's no value in worrying about other people's expectations, because then you're not living a full life for yourself. And when you're living more fully, that ripples out to everybody else. And then that gives everyone else the courage to say, okay, I don't have to worry about that. That conditioning that I got fed at 5 and 6 doesn't have to stay with me. I can be a kick-ass woman and still be masculine at the same time. I can be someone who walks a different path. And I went through this like when I started my healing energy work business. I thought I had to be all like, I don't know, in flowy skirts. And look, every time I would show up like that, it would be like, this is uncomfortable for me. I love the color black. I do not like color. Hence, my book cover is black and gold. That's about the most color you're going to get out of me. And that's okay. And I want to encourage people to marry their dark and their light together. It is a perfect integration of who you are. Everything that you consider as part of your shadow has helped you get to a point where you are today. So you can use that still to your advantage in your healing journey and learn how to use it, not so much as survival, but as a way to thrive. Like having attention to detail doesn't have to be perfectionism. It can just be I'm a kick-ass person at doing this and knowing where to balance it so that you're not turning that into self-criticism when it's not a perfect project, right? I love owning all parts of myself and it makes me feel really comfortable. I want other people to feel comfortable with that. I honestly can tell you that, oh, okay, well, of course I want people to like my book, right? But if they don't, then they're in the fucking trash. It's not for you then. I can't own that. I want people to understand that. Not everything is meant for everybody. We all find our spaces of where we belong and the people who we gravitate to around that. And just love people for who they are and be in that space all the time. And you're just going to be like, okay, what's coming at me next? It doesn't mean life is not difficult sometimes, right? I still have my curveballs, right? I'm still stressed some days. It just means that as long as I'm true to myself, I know I'm going to get through it. So let's do it together, though. I think that one of the hurdles that was really hard for me to get over was understanding that it was okay to ask for support. I still have a mentor that helps me now. You never finish this life journey, right? So find your people, but you can only find your people when you find yourself.
It's so funny that you said that, Melissa, because one of the top 5 limiting beliefs in our country today is I need to do this all by myself.
Yeah.
If I am not doing this independently, then I'm essentially not doing it. So it doesn't count. And you recognize that as one of your hurdles. Do you speak about that in Real Talk for Self-Discovery, the workbook that we are here talking about today?
Yes, I talk a lot about support. I also talk about getting caught up in the productivity loop. Like the more I do, the more worth I have. Total bullshit. At the end of the day, what I say in the book is, what do you really want people to remember you for? Do you want them to remember you for the corporate job that you had where no one thanked you for anything and you did all this stuff for something else? Or do you want to be remembered for the caring mom who was always present for her kid because she was able to stop and breathe and take time for herself too? Okay. So this is important, right? You have to make time for yourself to be present for other people.
Absolutely.
And this isn't selfish. This is part of renewal. And I talk about the difference between renewal and self-care. Everybody thinks, oh, if I go to the spa once a week, I'm taking care of myself. No, you need renewal time. You need it scheduled. You need a consistent way of doing and managing your life so you stay okay. So that when you go to that massage appointment, it is just totally like a relaxing. It's not like, okay, take it all away. You've already managed it up until that point. I originally for myself thought that some of my structured activities was more around the fact that I wanted to make sure that my recovery was never in jeopardy. Then I realized it was also about my mental health. And that's another thing I want people to be comfortable talking about. I feel like with mental health, people feel like we should just get over that shit, right? This is something you live with your whole life, folks. This isn't just, okay, I take a pill and it goes away. This is something people manage all the time. And I would love to encourage people to stop guilting people because they have a bad flipping day. This being a good person doesn't mean you can be 100% all the time. We need space for our own selves. We need space to recuperate. And we need to honor people when they need that time. And yeah, so I think I'm going off track, but I just,
it's okay.
I wanted to really highlight that because we are conditioned that if we just give of everything, that we'll be loved.
And that's another limiting belief, that we have to earn love.
No,
And that we have to have
something.
something to provide that makes us worthy.
Mm-hmm. So can I read something that's in the beginning of my book that I want everybody to like really hear clearly?
I wonder if it's the same thing I was going to read. Please do.
Oh, okay. I wrote this myself, by the way. Like I love to write it. So you don't have to.
You don't have to lose yourself?
Yes, you don't have to lose yourself to love someone. You don't have to betray your truth to be accepted. You never have to shrink so someone else stays comfortable.
I love that so much, for more than reasons that we can even talk about on this podcast, or it would just go on for an entire year. But the reason I think I love it most of all is because one of the things we do, and we do it with death, we do it with divorce, we do it with traumatic events, catastrophes, whatever, is we don't ask people about that. And we don't talk about it because they might feel something. So that's the first part. We don't never talk about, unless it's a therapeutic sanctioned setting, we don't talk to anyone about what they've experienced because it may be off limits. They may get upset. But the other thing we do, and this is where I love what you say about not staying small. And I use this as an example because the other day someone told me they were going to go see their son. And he lives this is somebody who lives in another country where they actually take care of family members that are ill. And they don't go bankrupt trying to find facilities and residential care and all kinds of things to help them. But anyway, she was telling me that she was going to spend the day with her son. And I said something about, I think that's so wonderful because my son has not talked to me, at least when he's been in a normal frame of mind, for probably 2 years now. And her first response was, "I'm so sorry. I shouldn't have said that to you. I didn't mean to upset you." And my reaction was, you're having a great day with your son should not be forbidden to say in front of someone, because I wish I had that. Why should she play small because I might feel badly about that? And I think we do that to each other all the time. And so whatever comes to light, which is why I love your workbook, Real Talk for Self-Discovery, because you're bringing the things to light that we tiptoe around, not just with each other, but ourselves.
Yeah, well, that's kind of how we're taught, right? Like, when you're young, sit pretty, don't say a word. We carry that along with us. And that's why my Raw Intensive program is so important work to do for people, because it helps us remove those blocks that started from the ages of 0 to 12 years old. And some of them we're not aware of because we're not conscious of it, because we're young and and think about how a 5-year-old responds to something compared to a 20-year-old, right? So we're often not able to connect those dots now that we're older, but your body stores all of this. And I'm constantly trying to encourage people to look at where things are stored in your body. I mean, talking through things helps to a degree, but then if your body's still responding, and this is in the book, all of the responses that we have to certain things, there's reasons behind all of this. And once you build that awareness, it gives you the ability to actually change it. So you need to be able to talk about it and say it. Like you said, Leslie, it's just like, why can't we say that something is tough for us? What's wrong? Why is that such a taboo? It was the same thing when I wrote my Chains of Her Soul poetry book, and I finally released it, right? And I was like, if I hadn't written these words, it was a big part of my healing journey. But then it was, oh my gosh, what are people going to say? Yes, I got caught up in the trap too. What are they going to say when they read what I've been through? I don't want sympathy. I wanted people to know they weren't alone. So this is why we have to speak our true stories, because everyone has one. We all do. But we sit in these corners thinking it's only me. And it limits healing, and it limits community healing too. Because I just did a group last week, and I was healing through words. And I was encouraging to do journal prompts around their trauma. And when they spoke it out loud, and the other person was like, oh shit, me too. And then the other person was like, yeah, me too. Everybody was able to breathe. I felt the whole room go into this deflation of like, oh my gosh, right? So you have to speak your truth to get back to yourself.
I love that you're bringing that to us, because I couldn't agree with you anymore. I have found myself in speaking my truth when I felt like my truth is what isolated me, and what was going to be, the mark on my shirt in society, to reference old times. So I absolutely agree with you. And I love that this is something that you're helping everybody with, and talking about across different platforms, and making it accessible from Amazon to your website to the podcast. I think it's really awesome, because you're able to connect with everybody wherever they're at in this process, and bring what they already have inside to the light. And to go back to what you're saying, yeah, we need those spa days, but we're more like a plant, right? My belief is that we're the same. So we need good soil, maybe a good spa, but we also need water. We also need our beautiful sun and our beautiful moon and all of the other things in between. And if we forget to water ourselves, or cut off the sunshine, and that could be happiness, because happiness is a choice, right? So if we don't do these things, and we don't take care of ourselves, we can die off. And that's not healthy, obviously. But on a mental level, that's, I think, where it brings the important topics, like the mental illnesses and our humanism, right? Like our human stuff. Like, no matter how elevated we are, no matter how much I'm using air quotes on that, elevated we are, no matter how much we work on ourselves or don't, we all are human, and we all are going to have a really fucking shitty day every now and then, or maybe just an hour. But if we don't talk about it, we're not bridging that gap. So I'm so grateful. I love this. I'm loving everything, and I'm not saying anything. I'm just bobbing over here like crazy. So I just had to tell you, yes, yes, yes.
This is what I always tell people, I have a really structured schedule around like my workout schedule and my eating and different things. And I was told by someone, they were like, well, you're just so vain. Like, you just, do you ever? And I turned around, and I didn't get defensive. I just looked at them and I said, this is my mental health prescription. If I don't work out in the morning, this is what I've found. And this is what I'm encouraging people, like, find out what works with your body and your mind. Don't follow somebody else's script. Find your own. This is what works for me. Work out in the morning, meditate afterwards. Then I eat my breakfast, and I have a night routine. And I say no to other things at those time frames. Because if I don't do that, my day is not going to be as fruitful. And if I don't eat, then my gut hurts if I don't eat right? So think about all these things. If you want to be more evolved in who you are, take time to learn who you are. Right? And the premise of the book, I'm not feeding you my prescription. I want you to create your own. And the only way you do that is by peeling back every layer, looking at every truth that you think you've been told, that you've been fed as truth, and deciding on your own, is this my truth? Are these the things that really make me happy or not? Because a lot of times when we get down to it, we realize, oh, that was somebody else's happiness I was fulfilling over here. And being okay with being imperfect and messy. I love the word messy. We are messy people. I don't mean dirty. I mean messy, right? We're
had
living
lives.
life in a
Right.
world
We
that,
had experiences. They weren't
Yes.
always prescriptively perfect.
no. And the big part of this book too is taking ownership for how you respond to things.
And I'd like to say something before you go on, Melissa, about that. Because when that individual said that regimen, your mental health regimen, was vain, I think it's no shocker that that's that person's issue or excuse, maybe, as to why they may not be able to do some of the things for themselves that they would like to do.
Sure.
And so I loved the way that you reframed that for them, because it put it back on them to find their own way. So they can call it vanity, what other people may call healthy. I mean, you can call it anything you want, but I love that you were able, and I look at my response to things all the time and question, is this me? Is this me and an insecurity talking? Or is this an objective evaluation or assessment of a specific situation? And I think when we question our responses, we will more often than not find ourselves projecting something that we should then take a step back and deconstruct and figure out, where did that originate? And why would I strike out at you because I feel like I don't go to the gym enough?
Yeah, well, yeah, it's shadow work 101, right? It's the first, but part of the first thing you do is what annoys you in other people is usually something in yourself that you need to change or you want to work on, right? Not need. I don't like to use the word need, right? It's more about
why does this bother me so much?
Yeah. Yeah.
I think it's funny this whole conversation is coming up because we were talking about lipstick in a Zoom chat a couple of days ago. And, I've always been intimidated to really wear lipstick. And we were all like, well, why is that? Let's dive in. And when we boiled it down as a group together, it was kind of interesting that our takeaway was that, or at least my takeaway from that conversation, please correct me if I'm wrong, Keone, was my perception was that society is intimidated by women who seemingly have their shit together, whether it's an agenda, a routine, priorities. And so it automatically comes across as something that it's not. And so I also just wanted to kind of echo what Keone was saying. I really, really enjoyed that reframing of the way the question was asked to you to allow them to do the complex thinking. I think that that's needed. And that's why it's so important that this book is so relevant. And that's why I just think it's really awesome that we have a workbook to work through as well. So it can meet everyone where we are and really question every one of those little things instead of saying, yeah, I know exactly what shadow work is. Instead of labeling it, just doing these little nudges, one piece at a time.
Yeah. And that's why I created it. And I think we talked about this a little bit before we started, was that as I was working with clients, I was like, well, why can't I just hand them something like that they can use on their own time more, right? Where it wasn't just like, oh, here's some integration work every time I see you. I wanted, because my journey was kind of like grabbing at this and grabbing at that. And then I'd get to a certain point and then I didn't know where to go next. So I outlined this book in a way that I'm hoping lives with you, because our journey is ongoing. So this book is something that you just don't go through once. You keep, okay, oh, I'm going through this. Oh, because there's certain masks might come back up, right? All of a sudden you have something happen. I mean, life is life, right? I talk about this a lot in my healing work is we don't give enough value to grief in our lives. And it can be around all kinds of things, grief around identity, right? As we grow and evolve, we're losing a certain identity that we were used to. That's a grief. That's grief, right? When we're leaving something behind, job transition, all that kind of stuff, right? And we just think we have to keep being okay. I want to encourage individuals to process through that stuff. It's okay to not be okay with change in the moment, as long as you work through it. Right? You have to be so stubborn and say, I'm just okay. Because then all of these things keep coming up over and over again because they're unhealed grief and unhealed processes that need to be looked at. I lost my thought. There was something else I was going to say at that moment.
Well, I can say that the one thing that you've also hit the nail right on the head is we as a culture are uncomfortable with being uncomfortable.
Yes.
The last thing we want to feel is loss or grief or sadness. And so we find a zillion ways, including things that aren't good for us, to distract us from feeling those ways.
And I want to talk about something else in the book. And I talk about something that I came up with on my own. So, we talk about fear a lot. And one day I was sitting there writing and I came up with this fear formula, which I coined it as turning fear into fuel. So rather than like using fear as a catalyst to, okay, what's going on here? So if you use it in the formula I created, fear is a fierce drive and determination. So fear has that energy of like, why is it showing up? And why does this matter to me? Right. And then E is everlasting motivation. So I think we want to always resolve fear. We think fear is our enemy, but fear is what tells us something doesn't sit well with us and helps us change. And then using A as ambition to move and R as a resource of change. So I started using that every time something came up, and it really shifted how I questioned things and how I addressed them. And it's in the book for everybody to go through. I created a whole process around it, but fear isn't always our enemy. It doesn't have to be. If we choose to be in fear, then we are sitting in a space that doesn't allow healing. So flip the script. Like I'm all about flipping the script. Find a way to use those uncomfortable moments for growth. Find a way to allow them to help you step forward. Because usually the things I have feared the most are the things I had to do more of. Or they were recreated from things that happened in the past that I didn't address. So when you see something coming up repeatedly, by really paying attention and being invested in this process, then you start to know, well, that is rooted in this situation that happened. And I'm repeating it because we repeat our patterns every 10 years. So why am I repeating this?
Instead of running from the discomfort or the fear, flip the script.
Flip it. Yeah.
I completely agree with that. I think since we started this podcast, actually, that is something that I took it from a Papa Roach lyric. So it's slightly different, but face everything and rise. And it transitioned it to when I'm facing fear, look at it, like Keone was saying, with inquisition and curiosity and kind of diving into it instead of the human thing of deploying this negative energy. Oh, it's my shadow. It's so bad. Or, oh, this is what makes me best. And this is what is shining bright from me. But really, instead of labeling those things, to just really use that opportunity to explore. And I think you even said it, when I feel the most uncomfortable, but safe, which is a very different feeling. So when my body feels safe, but my head is uncomfortable, for me, that's when I know, I call it the 2x4 moment from my team. Like, okay, we've tried to show you a few more times. So now we're going to make it a little more uncomfortable for you so that you sit in it because you need this. This is for your growth. And I usually end up loving every minute of it. But right before, I'm like really anxious and really uncomfortable is the best word I could put, but I don't want to put a negative connotation on it because it's not. It's really like a mysterious cave exploration type of uncomfortable. It's awesome and majestic.
So let's rock in the discomfort.
I want to ask you why spirituality matters.
Wow.
I loved this whole section of your workbook.
Did you love that? How,
I did.
The importance of it. So spirituality allows us to be grounded in our environment and what's around us. It allows us to know that we don't have to fix, we don't have to change, we don't have to do. We can just be. We can just be, right? We start noticing the things that are important. The birds singing, our children laughing in the other room, right? That's not a nuisance anymore. That's comfort. We remember the things that matter in our lives when we settle in spirituality. And it took me a long time to get there. I mean, and I talk about this in the book. It wasn't like I was like, oh, okay, all of a sudden I'm spiritual. Like I believe all this stuff. I questioned it a lot. But quieting your mind is spiritual. Not reacting to your environment is being spiritual. It doesn't have to be unobtainable. Like I think people want to be a monk or this guru when they say that you're spiritual. I'm a spiritual, messy, everyday person. It's not like everything's like, oh, the universe gave me this. Being spiritual makes you believe in yourself and gives you the courage to walk your own path. It means making your own freaking rules. Because who made the rules, right? Who said that this wasn't okay over this half the time? I'm not encouraging everybody to go out there and break the law. What I'm saying is that we have all these caveats of how we should and shouldn't act. And I want you to throw them all out of the fucking window and decide what you think is appropriate. Because I don't act like a lady. I act like a woman, whatever that means to you, right? Yeah, this is me. You don't have to like it. Yeah, if you decide that it's not okay to walk that way, then that's your, So to me, being spiritual is being at peace with yourself. And then that permeates around everybody else because you are beautiful as you are. It's okay. Yeah. And often when we're looking at other people, it's because we're afraid to look at ourselves. I mean, hell, let's be honest. I think we've probably all been there, right? There's times where looking outward was it, right? But being spiritual is about taking that tough step to really look what's inside of you and decide, I'm going to live fully in love. You can live in hate if you want, but don't come in my courtyard. Thank you. And living in love means accepting other people's opinions, even if you don't agree. accepting that things are not perfect and that people make bad decisions sometimes, and we can love them anyway. And accepting that we are sometimes life does happen onto us too. But that doesn't mean we can't respond in a way that keeps us calm and at peace. Doesn't mean we have to like it. But my spirituality has allowed me to find my own sense of peace in the storm. That's my responsibility. You can't put that on anyone else. If you're unhappy, then, you find your happiness. There's no partner. There's no rainbow. There's no thing that's going to make you happy. Like, I talk about this too. Like, do not chase fucking happiness. It's not there. It's not, there's no gold at the end of the rainbow, like pot of gold at the end. Create your own happiness. The problem is that most of us don't spend enough time with ourselves to understand what that fucking is. What it is, it really brings you joy. I bet you, if everyone who is listening to this tried to answer that question, what really brings you joy? Tell me. And it's like, oh, and everybody looking around at the other person. What brings you true happiness? What brings you true joy? What are your needs and wants? Most of us who have been through trauma, and trauma is all kinds of levels too, folks. So don't negate it. It's all things affect us in different ways, right? Just own that shit. We all have trauma on some level. So what does that mean for you? And how has that impacted you? And allow yourself some grace in figuring it out so you can get out on the other side of it. Stop shaming ourselves. I always tell people, and stop using the word should. Should is a shame-based word. Get to it when you get to it. If you didn't do it yesterday, when do you want to do it? And if you didn't do it, was it really that important to you? Or is it something that you thought somebody else wanted you to do? That's the other thing I always like to hone in on with people. Is this really your want or need? Or is this something that you think somebody else wants you to do? Because that's probably what it is if you keep putting it off.
Is that why traditional goal setting doesn't work?
I believe that's why. If it's not in alignment with you, why do it? We waste so much beautiful time doing things that we think we have to do.
It's such a slippery slope though, right? Like, I know I can only speak for me in my past, but when I was many years ago, when I was fresh out of the military, I was so disconnected with my body that I had no inclination, a thought, a grain of reality that this could not be my truth. Nothing ever made me question it. So I love the raw approach because that's what would have gotten my attention in that phase, but also just shining the light on that because it does look so different for each and every one of us. And then once we recognize that, that's where the opportunity for growth is. And I think of it kind of like a stoplight, right? Like we have the red, the green, and the yellow. And realistically, they're all just suggestions. It's just a matter of us to evaluate where our priorities lie there. So that's kind of how I see that too. And it can be very hard for me sometimes to remember that I acted as that person for decades because I didn't know that there was any other option. I was struggling for any air to survive. Thriving wasn't even a word I had ever even heard of, conceptually speaking. So yeah, this awareness is beautiful. I love this approach.
Thank you.
You mentioned that your mother read your workbook.
She did. I wanted her to be part of it too, just because she's my mom and I wanted to see what she would think. And I feel like it opened up conversations that we hadn't had about things that happened in her childhood too. It helped me understand some things in the way that she views some things that are different than how I see them. So I encourage people, like, this is also generational. Some of what is implied that we need to follow is passed down. share this with other people in your life so that you can all start walking this path of self-discovery. And when you do this, always remember that it's really just uncovering who you already are. I don't like this whole concept of trying to recreate yourself. It's more about shedding what isn't yours. So we carry so much that isn't ours. So let's start like taking some of that baggage off and find our true selves. Not let it shine. Put on your cape and just sip around. Yeah. Yeah. You don't have to make excuses for who you are.
I really loved that you did share that with your mom. And I think a lot of times when, as we've said now a million times, everybody's got their own stuff. And I don't know one family, regardless of how small or big, that didn't have something that they experienced either together or as a reaction to something that was happening with either one or more people in their family. And I love that you shared it with your mom in a way that it sounded to me was honoring the experience that you both have, either separately or together. And it wasn't a blaming or a shaming experience. It was, hey, you're human, I'm human. We're both adults. Let's take a hard look at some of the things that are impacting us and figure out where that could have originated, why perhaps it originated, and then work on healing that process.
Yeah. Because you don't have to do it all alone. Right? This isn't about like, yes, huddle up with the book for a little while and figure it out, but talk to other people about it. You know, one of my beta readers was like, I feel like you wrote this book for me and you were talking directly at me. And I was like, wow. She said something around, it opened my eyes to so many patterns that I had in my life. You recognize them. You don't have to keep repeating them. You have the power to rewrite your story. I had this conversation with a friend just the other day. We tend to not want to share difficult experiences with other people because it makes them uncomfortable. But the beauty of it is, and this is what I said to him, is if someone is comfortable enough to share that with you, that means that they're allowing you to help them rewrite that story. So embrace that. Don't embrace the fact that you want to make them feel comfortable. Embrace the fact that they want you to walk through this with them because they're trusting you to help them change the story. Right? So rewrite your stories. Pick up your pen and rewrite your story. You don't have to keep living it. It's yours. It's your life. It's your life.
Yes, we do tiptoe around each other quite a bit as far as I said, avoiding discomfort.
Yes. Yes. I did it before I did some of my stuff. I didn't want to make people uncomfortable. But what it allows is unity. It allows us to remember that we can heal as a collective. It doesn't have to be in our own little boxes. And there's beauty in that and that healing of community that we've kind of lost and drifted away from. Yeah.
What do you say to the person who overshares? I just heard this the other day about oversharing is a trauma response.
It can be. It's almost like really avoiding it. So when you keep talking about it, right, you're not really hearing the words. Like it's not really settling in. You're just like dumping it. I think there's a lot of ways to redirect people who overshare. Like, I understand this is tough for you, but how does that feel in your body? Like bring them into their body. Because when they're all in their head and they're just trying to get it out, they're avoiding where it is sitting in their body. And usually they'll stop and go, oh, I feel it here all the time. Okay, then you take them to the next level. I always, because what they're trying to do is logically make sense of it. They're trying to rationalize it, but that doesn't work. So I always try to bring them back to their body.
I think I always thought that was interesting perspective that oversharing, number one, was and could be a trauma response, because personally, I was always of the closed mouth. I don't speak about it at all for a number of reasons. But I love how you are able to reframe that for someone so that once it gets out of their heads, now they can start to work through it in a way.
Sorry.
Go ahead. No. Please go ahead.
The other thing is sometimes that's a response of, I've never had my voice heard. And once they just want to be heard. So I also honor, I'm sure you haven't heard, you haven't had your voice heard a lot. And I reiterate back what they told me so that they are like, yeah, that's what happened. And then they settle into the body experience as well. Yeah.
One of the things that I thought was really interesting in looking at alternative levels of healing as well, or I should say alternative modalities of healing, is, and this is certainly not with everyone, but there is a percentage of people that their identity is tied to the pain they carry.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's a very interesting scenario to deconstruct. And it really hit me when you made the comment about some people just don't even fucking know who they are and what they even fucking like, because they've been whoever this has been for so long, where they're just carried this heaviness, this identity of being in pain, that they don't know who they are without it.
Well, it's their armor.
What's that?
It's their armor. It's what protects them, right? If I'm in pain, you can't hurt me anymore. If I keep that wall up, then you're not, you can't penetrate what I haven't, where I'm not ready for you to go. So yeah, and that's a lot of unhealed wounds. I walked it for a while where it was like, but there's a flip side to it too. You go through this thing with trauma where you feel like some of it you deserve. Like you feel like on some level, like I did these things depending on when it happened. Some of my things happened when I was younger. So I thought I deserved to be in pain. I thought I had to be miserable. I really, truly believed that. I thought that this was my penance. Like this is what I was supposed to do. So when I see people doing that, I'm usually trying to peel back the layers of, okay, where is this originating from that you feel like you have to be in pain, right? And then we also get comfortable in the pain because we are so afraid to feel happy, because what is that? Right? If you've been in that space for so long, on that roller coaster ride of hell, I call it, where everything was just awful, then the thought of feeling happy is as scary as being in pain. I mean, let that settle, folks, because it's fucking true. It's like the chaos dance I used to dance. Chaos was what I knew. I hated it and loved it. I had this like thing with it. It was like the minute things got calm, and this was part of what helped me. I had to, working in my spirituality, I had to get to that point where I didn't want chaos, because that was my comfortable spot. Like because that's what your body knows. You get comfortable with the pain, you get comfortable with the chaos. So you do have to take time to rewire that. There is no switch, guys. There's no magic switch here. This is time commitment. This is okay. I'm going to do this. Maybe for 5 minutes today, I'm going to say, I'm not going to accept pain. I'm not going to accept chaos. I'm going to say, I'm at peace and I'm going to do this. Right. And then over time, your body starts to adjust to it.
And I think
yeah.
the happiness trap is important to remember, because peace does not necessarily mean everything is sublime.
No. It's like the positive thinking thing that I talk about in the book. It's like, look, be real. We're not happy all the time. Like, yeah, I wake up, I'm okay, right? But it's okay to not be okay. It's okay to have days. It's how you flip the script, and it's what you choose every day. Yeah. Most of that is a mask. If you're telling me you're happy 24/7, I'm calling bullshit. Yeah. And it's okay to not be. I always say to people, how are you feeling? Not how are you doing? Because I don't want a list of what you've done for the day. I want to know how you're feeling today. And I sincerely care about how you're really feeling. Are you having a bad day? Check in on your friends. Check in on people. It's okay. And don't always tell people you're okay if you're not. Let people support you.
I was going to say that's where community comes in, either to help calibrate us and remind us that we'll get better, or to not be so afraid of potential happiness. All of those things. That's, for me, that's what really ties it all in.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree.
When is this amazing workbook going to be published and released for the world?
Oh, it's out. So it actually, I was actually able to get it launched a week early. So today was the actual, isn't that awesome? Today was my actual targeted publish date, the 28th.
Yes.
But it is already available on Amazon. So yeah, you can just go on, if you type in Raw Melissa Bishop, it'll come up. Right now on Kindle, if you have a subscription, it's free. I do think the paperback is, but I'm a paperback girl. I love highlighting and reading, and when something really hits me, I like to do all of that. But yeah, I'm hoping this will be people's companion for life.
It felt like a workbook that you could reuse multiple times. So I thought about maybe writing my answers in a separate workbook, like a journal, and kind of create like the journal so that when I go through it again, I could still have blank pages. And I ended up highlighting some of my things anyways, but I was originally trying to keep it blank so that I could go back and do it again, because it felt like something I could try really and apply throughout multiple different.
And that's why I created it like that. So that, because that is our journey, right? And the other thing that I just wanted to point out about the book that's a little different is I tried very hard to come from a perspective of we're not healed. Some self-help books think you have this foundation of already being somewhere on your journey. This is scraped back. You start small and you go up. So you may not always go back to chapter 1. You may get to a point where you're like, I got the under us, but then the other chapters come into play in different points of your life. And I did create a companion journal that will be out next week.
Wonderful.
So that there's something, because that was actually feedback from one of my beta writers. She's like, I wished I had a journal. I said, well, the objective is for people to have their own journal. She said, no, I want a journal. Okay. All right. So that is coming out. I got a little tired with all the edits of the original book. So that one's a little behind, but it'll be out next week. Yeah.
What else do we need to know?
Just to love yourself, I know we say that, but I don't mean that don't look in the mirror and look at yourself as this unfixable project. We came into this world a beautiful being. Don't ever lose your curiosity. Keep striving to look at life from different lenses. Don't be afraid to change. We feel like we have to get to this point where this is who I am now. Allow yourself to continue to grow. I love that about where I've come to in my life now, that I don't feel like I have to be in the same box all the time, that it's okay that 10 years ago, something that really hit home with me doesn't resonate with me anymore. Or vice versa, So I want people to just continue to be curious about what they can accomplish and what they can do with their lives and who they can become and who they want to be and what their purpose will be. And it's about being more present. Really, we are not present enough. We're too busy looking outward, like be present with yourself. And then all of your relationships improve. Your work, your partners, your personal relationships, and then you attract more light.
I was listening to a podcast on students who were working through some Zen Buddhist experiences. And this one individual had a meeting with Thich Nhat Hanh, and they were walking from one building to the other. And he said, if you'd like to Thich Nhat Hanh, we can talk about what we're going to talk about while we walk if you want to. We don't have to take up any more of your day. And he said, no. When I walk, I walk. I think about walking.
Yes.
I don't talk and walk. And when I get to my next place will be the time for us to talk about what we want to talk about in full focus. And I think that mindfulness is important for us to remember, whether we're walking, cleaning the snow off our car, vacuuming, going to the gym, whatever it is we're doing, to be mindful there.
I agree with you.
Anything else, Chloe?
That was just such a great reminder. I really am so grateful that you came back to share this wisdom with us and all of our listeners. I think it's
important work.
It is. And I love it. I love hearing everybody's different approach to it, because not everybody's going to fit somebody. And the most important thing is to find somebody. Sometimes they don't even know how much they mean to us in our movement and our growth. Sometimes it was listening to somebody on a podcast who didn't know I existed until very recently. And just listening to the growth, that was very freeing. I'm just very grateful that you also brought that up, because I don't need to be the same that I was yesterday. And my tribe knows and loves me for exactly who I am, not what I said yesterday. And when I'm having a hard moment, they're the ones who are going to be there to help me and support me and remind me that we are all awesome. And I will do those for them as well. So everything you're saying is just so beautiful and so important. And I'm so grateful you're doing this. Thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me. I love doing this with you guys.
The name of the book, Real Talk for Self-Discovery. Melissa Bishop, our author, who is spending time with us today. I will make sure that book name and where it can be purchased will be all in the show notes, as well as her website. And Wholehearted Studio has not changed, correct? Or at least not yet, doing your rebranding?
No, I'm still leaving that as is. I haven't tackled that piece yet.
As we all are, her website is a work in progress.
Yes.
And
it's all up and running. I mean, everything's available. It's just, I'm not sure. Yeah. Hey, I'm having an identity crisis. Enjoy. Yeah.
Thank you so much, my dear.
Thank you.
Great having you. Bye.
Bye.
Thanks for diving into the depths with us today. If you enjoyed this episode, show your support at buymeacoffee.com/MysticalMermaidLounge, as every little ripple helps keep the magic flowing. Would you like some more deep, soul-yearning conversations? Well, then swim on over to our sister podcast, Past Lives Cafe, where Keone deep dives into those past life experiences. Also, we'd love to hear from you. Please don't forget to rate and review and drop your feedback and comments at our website, mysticalmermaidlounge.buzzsprout.com. Thank you again so much, and don't forget to catch us at the next high tide. Bye-bye.